The full effects of tightening are yet to be felt. That's what Powell says when they talk about lag effects, that the full effects of tightening are simply yet to be felt. And what happened today? Whoa, what's going on here? What happened today was banks, this SVB bank, are starting to feel the pain of higher interest rates. Why? Because when interest rates rise, the bonds and the debt that they hold are falling in value. So their balance sheet is declining, but they obviously have all these deposits. And those deposits to those people outside the bank that have deposits in the bank are treated like cash. So when they go back to the bank, they need their cash. The bank has to have some cash on reserves, but at some point they're going to deplete that. And then they need to start going on the assets. What's happening as interest rates go up is that the value of those assets are going down. So now the banks, at least this one, there are some banks that are not going to succumb to this, but there might be some more. We'll get to that in a second. What's happening is, you got deposits coming in and you got assets coming down, and it's not a good situation. This is what happened with FTX. This is what happened with Silvergate. It's starting, and the full effects of tightening are yet to be felt. Now, this is probably not going to happen with JP Morgan. Jamie Dimon was talking about a hurricane. They're very well regulated. The Fed is aware and watching those things. They don't want those banks to fail, the big ones. However, there's plenty of small banks, there's plenty of credit unions, those kinds of things. And I don't know if you remember, if you watch all these videos, you might remember, but a while ago, we talked about how Fed member Barr was doing this live stream, and there was only a couple hundred people watching it. I thought that was weird. We made a video about it, but something was up. We could sense it. Where he was talking about a review of the capital requirements for the non-banking sector. So these are credit unions, not the major 50 big banks, the smaller stuff. They still have deposits, they still have client funds, and they make mortgages. They operate like banks, but they're not regulated like banks. Well, the same effect is happening to them. The Fed has tightened faster than they typically ever do, faster than many people expected, and it's coming to roost. That's what it is. The Fed is aware this was going to happen. They are investigating the non-bank capital requirements. They're not going to fight and prevent, banks aren't risk-free. They're not risk-free. They know this. They might try to make you not know this, but they're not risk-free. So there's a lot of loans out there, and the loans are declining in value, and it's coming to roost. So I expect a little bit more of this. I have no idea how big it's going to get. I haven't calculated everything. There's tremendous amounts of variables here. There's tremendous amounts of variables. It's going to be impossible. It literally is going to be impossible because there's unknowns and there's things that are going to take time to develop. It's just impossible to calculate. So I can't give you an answer, what banks are going to collapse, how many banks are going to collapse. It's impossible. It's really difficult to say that. So what I do know is the Fed is raising interest rates. That is making asset prices fall across the board. I'm not dabbling in these banks. I'm not going long or short. I'm doing what I'm talking about in these videos. I'm going short the market. I don't see a reason to buy stocks, as I've said past many weeks. I expect the Fed to go farther because inflation is not hot. This is the consequence, right? This is the consequence. You had very low interest rates. You had printed money. Everything was getting funded at very low interest rates. It created a bubble. Businesses that shouldn't have got funded weren't funded. It was like you had zombie companies. That's why it's starting at the Silicon Valley Bank, but it's going to be others. It's starting at the Silicon Valley Bank that funded zombie companies that didn't work, but they invested in them or whatever they did at too high valuations. And it's nature, things are going to normalize. It's like you get hot days, you get cold days, whatever it is. It's just the way things work. And it's in the end, it's all going to balance out. It's all going to balance out in the end. But as we said yesterday, as we've said in every video this week, the soil is changing. And it's changing, and you're starting to see it. So what we saw on the upside, the greens, the Goldilocks environment, it truly was a Goldilocks environment never before seen, is now becoming the opposite. One of the fastest ever Fed tightens. And that's just the way it works, right? You print all this money, you cause inflation, you don't want inflation, you have to fight to bring inflation down. And the Fed is fighting. You don't want to fight the Fed, as we say on this channel, as everyone else says. But many decided not to believe since October, whatever, right? We're not going to keep blaming these people. We're just going to do whatever. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to tune out all the noise, and we're just going to go with it. And we'll see what happens, We got good jobs data today. Good because it was better than expectations, but really it was a whole nothing burger. This is what a nothing burger is. Yes, better than expectations, a few thousand more jobs lost, but the number is still strong. Like, this is like a good economy number. No reason for concern. Yesterday we got jobs, openings, data that was stronger than expected. In my opinion, that's a little more important than unemployment claims, because unemployment claims, it could just be lower performing people are getting fired. There's a million things that could be. But job openings being strong indicates that businesses want to hire, and there's a lack of supply of labor, and there's a high demand of labor. And the Fed needs to get labor and supply and labor demand and labor supply in balance. And it's not indicative that that's the case right now, with job openings up a lot. I believe it's 2 openings for every unemployed person. So it's a lot of openings. We're going to have to see what happens, but rates are expected to go up. So expect more balance sheet destruction for banks that have lots of debt and, or lots of loans, and just for this to continue a bit, There's plenty of stocks that are still way too expensive. Apple, Nvidia, Chipotle. These are great brands, great companies. I'm not trying to hit on them, but no one is safe. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to, dramatize the situation. I'm saying this because that's what happens when you increase interest rates. Assets go down, as we've seen in basically every asset, except for these last 3 very expensive, massive companies that people think they're safe in, but they're not. They're not. Additionally, earnings are beginning to decline. The effects of the tightening are going to be felt in the economy, in consumer spending, in these areas. So earnings are going to continue to decline, and the full effects of tightening are yet to be felt. That's today's video. Until next time, peace out.